What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. I want to put something in perspective for all those continental Africans that are under the impression that African Americans do not know where they come from or who they are and all these things, just because when you ask us, we say we're from Georgia, Atlanta, various places like that within America. I want to put something in perspective for you, okay? Now, for instance, if you're Yoruba, if you're Igbo, right? I want you to understand that when the transatlantic slave trade happened, right before the transatlantic slave trade happened, right? You were not Yoruba and you were not Igbo. You were something else. You were called something else. When the Oyo Empire and the Benin Empire were going back and forth, and when the city-states of the Igbo, various different Igbo tribes, formulated in their co-opted city-states with no king, just different chiefs and different, systems. When the Hausas, and they had their city-states, and it wasn't just one group of people, because the Hausas and the city-states had various different, what we consider ethnic groups and languages and cultures amongst themselves. Before all these traditional terms that you call yourself, you were something else. And before we were African Americans, we were something else. And it just so happens that thing you were before you were Igbo, Yoruba, and what we know is in Hausa and all these other tribes, before you were all that, and before we were African American, all of us collectively were the same thing, right? And for all you continental Africans that believe that you know your culture and we don't, I would argue that both of us collectively, you may know a little bit more because you understand your language and a few things, but for the most part, we all know about as much of our cultures, roughly the same on both sides. What is culture? Music, dance, our cultural practices, right? Okay, what do Africans do culturally? All right, they dance, right? Let's go with dancing. African people dance, they shake their bums, they gyrate, they express themselves through rhythmic motion. That's part of our culture. No one does that like we do. Okay, well, African Americans, we continue to express ourselves the same way you continental Africans have expressed yourself. We shake our bums, we gyrate ourselves to the rhythm of nature. All our dances are the same dances you do. We just call them something different. I'll give you one thing. We don't remember, all of us can't speak our language. But you can't say that's 100% true, because there are African Americans who still maintain Yoruba villages within America. So you can't say we've lost all of our culture, because we still hold on to the Yoruba, which is the Yoruba culture as defined before the transatlantic slave trade. We still hold on to that in language. So you can't say all of us have lost our languages. A lot of the words that we say in the English language are actually part of or are originated African words. Right? Whether it be Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, we are saying African words in English, and it's been implemented, and a lot of people don't understand that. Let's talk about food. Food, a cultural thing that's really important within African culture. Okay, well, African American food is still African food. We cook the same foods that you cook. Your jollof rice is our jambalaya and our gumbo. It's the same thing. We just call it something different. But we're still practicing the same cultural food cooking practices. Catfish. We all love catfish. We have affinity for fish. African Americans, we cook fish the same way you cook fish. We may fry it a little different, right? But we also bake it and we also batter it fried the same way you fry it. So dance-wise, we still practicing it the same way, right? You guys have the griot culture. We have MCs, rappers. Same thing, right? Matter of fact, it's so similar that continental Africans seamlessly integrated within their own music genres, because as far as they're concerned, it belongs to them, because they feel the original beat, because it's there. So obviously, African American music is nothing but an evolved version of African music, just a modified version of various different types of African music, from jazz to rap, hip hop, R&B. All our music genres are just different kinds of modified African genres of music. So our music is still African. The way we dance is still African. What we eat is still African. Our hairstyles, well, clearly we still maintain the tradition of doing our hair and dressing up in African ways. White people when we African Americans try to be African, they call it ghetto. So when an African continental African tries to belittle an African American by calling something that we do called ghetto, I need you to understand that you're backing white supremacists who, anytime they saw African Americans practicing African culture, they called it ghetto. When you see African Americans wearing braids and putting different colors in their hair, we are emulating what we used to do in Africa when Africans would put different different colors in their hair, different beads, different mechanisms to adorn their hair. So we African Americans still do that thing. Everything we do about our hair, having our mothers never forgot how to stand over our daughters and do their hair. They've been doing exactly the same thing. You guys, when you get married, you have your wedding. You have your engagement ceremony, and then you have your wedding. You have your traditional European wedding. But before that, you have your other ceremony, the traditional African ceremony, right? African Americans also do the same thing. We have our traditional ceremonies that we participate before the wedding. When somebody dies in the African community, you don't consider it a permanent goodbye. You consider it your grandmama, your grandfather going to the other side as a spirit, and you know it's quite possible they may get reincarnated into one of the children that you're going to have in your family in the future. You guys recognize that some of your children may be your grandfather or your great-grandfather. You believe in the spirit and reincarnation, traditional African spirituality, and traditional African scientists in our understanding of the world. Well, the African American community also believes in the same thing. We also believe that we say that our children have old souls. We believe that our great-grandfather, our great-grandmama sometimes reincarnate in our children, and that we are watching the reincarnation of an old family member. We believe in the same thing you believe. We've never forgotten all of our traditional African pre-Christian traditions. The things that y'all call in Ifa and various other traditional religions have manifested itself in the Americas as hoodoo and voodoo and root work. We brought all of the things that you guys do traditionally in Africa, as far as healing and medicine and natural remedies. We do that. That is a part of the African American community to utilizing herbs and the natural things that the earth has given us in order to heal ourselves. As a matter of fact, the Western medicine has taken a lot of things from our practices that we learned in Africa, like vaccinations. A vaccination is a natural process to give you immunity to various different diseases. That's what African Americans contributed to the West, but we learned that in Africa. So when you say African Americans don't have culture, while participating in African culture, which is the most popular culture on the planet, understand that you're still just participating in African culture that's just been modified over here. And you need to understand that 500 years ago, I'm pretty sure that most continental Africans who are now historians, who say they know their culture, can tell you nothing about the Oyo Empire, can tell you nothing about the Ifa Empire that came before it, can tell you nothing about the old Ghana, not the new Ghana, can tell you nothing about the Songhai Empire, can tell you nothing about the Dahomey before colonization. Most of you continental Africans can't tell us anything about your history post 500 years. The same way we can't tell. Most Europeans cannot tell you anything about their history if you go 500 years in the past. Ask a European about the Old Welsh, about Old England before the Germans came, about Old England before the Dutch came, about Old English before all the Norse Vikings came. They can't tell you about their history. You go back 500 years, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody who can tell you in detail about their people 500 years ago. So it's not fair that you continental Africans will say that about us, when in fact we can turn around and most of you don't know anything either, because we're not holding memory that long. There are only certain people who are interested in history enough who hold that long of a memory. How many African anthropologists do we have? Historians do we have? We need more so that we can dig within our history and dig up all that rich history that we still have hidden underneath the layers of sediment within Africa, which I'm glad is kind of happening now. We need our own people on those scientists making papers, and we peer review our own things so we can have an unbiased, non-racist view, because the problem with white scientists, we never know which one is being racist and biased and using eugenics and which one is being objective, right? I mean, we kind of figured it out now, but at the time we didn't know, right? So When African Americans left Africa, we left empires that don't exist right now. There's not too many Africans that can tell me about the empire, the kingdom of Abadan. But you could tell me about the city of Abadan. You could tell me that the Abadan is the biggest city in Africa. You could tell me about how it's one of the biggest developing cities in Africa, but you can't tell me about the kingdom. You can't tell me the history of the kingdom. You can't. And like I said, white people, they can't tell you because right before the transatlantic slave trade, they were coming out of the Dark Ages, where they almost genocided themselves twice via bad hygiene practices and another couple times via war. The transatlantic slave trade is the thing that recovered white society from their loss of civilization when they sacked Rome. Do you understand? White people sacked Rome, destroyed what they deem as Western advanced civilization. Then they had centuries to live on their own as white Europeans after they destroyed the Mediterraneans. Then they pretended to be the Mediterraneans and the Greeks and the Italians, right? While not knowing how to put civilization together after burning all the intellectual properties, the books, and the knowledge that the ancient world has collected. And then we rolled into the Dark Ages where they became more barbaric savages. And then once they got that gun, they started to rape and pillage the world to recover from their savagery. Right? So they don't know shit. We don't know shit and you don't know shit. Nobody knows shit. Okay? About who they were 500 years ago afterwards, which I know, but majority of us can know. We go back as far as our great-grandparent, maybe our great-great-grandparent. That's most human beings' reasonable knowledge of their history. So a continental African cannot use that against an African American because they don't know that information either. The only thing they have on us is they still speak the language. Most of them still speak the language. Most of them. So if you take the language portion out, we're pretty much all in the same boat as far as our knowledge of our African history. Our knowledge of where our languages come from, our linguistic languages, our food language, our culture, of every aspect of us, all of us collectively, we ain't going back but so far until we have to get to some experts, got PhDs and doctrines in these type of things. Okay, so I just want to put that in perspective. And I want every African American who are having mature conversations with continental Africans and they run into this talking point that some continental Africans have with us, just remind them that they don't know either. Remind them that we are literally all practicing the same African culture, no matter where we are in the world. It's called different things because we're speaking different languages. And that's simply it. And that's why it's so seamless for African to merge within African American society. That's why it's so seamless for African Americans to merge into African society. Because believe it or not, despite all these weirdos, African Americans, incels who went to Africa thinking that they weren't the common denominator and they went over there acting all weird and shit, most African Americans, 99% of African Americans who are in Africa right now, are blending in seamlessly to society. Even though there are others who went over there expecting luxury on levels that don't exist yet because they were blindsided by African grifters trying to get their money to go on vacations and buy real estate. Right? We African Americans, we blend seamlessly within the African society and cultures because once we examine the cultural practices, we realize, damn, we do the same shit. We just call it something else. Or we do it slightly different this way. It's modified a little bit this way. That's why it's so easy for us to do this. That's why it's so easy for African Americans to go to the Caribbean and blend in seamlessly with the society. Because we're doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. That's why Caribbeans can easily go to Africa and blend in with society. Because Caribbeans and Africans are doing the same thing. Same culture. Things are just renamed. That's why Africans can seamlessly go to the Caribbean and blend in. Because they practice the same thing. They do the same thing. Culture is similar. That's why the United Nations is so afraid of us getting together, because our cultures are so similar despite them being different that we seamlessly integrate with each other. And once we seamlessly integrate with each other, the Europeans, since we all look the same, they cannot tell who's who, what is what, and what alliance is going with and who they need to watch. They have no idea. And they're getting afraid about that. All right? So we need to take all these things in consideration and elevate the conversation and move it forward so we can start making steps towards the end goal. And that's unity. And unity is not all peace, love, and happiness. Unity is economic and social cooperation and understand who the enemy is and drawing the lines at which we should draw when it comes to dealing with each other. Because there's certain lines we shouldn't cross when we're fighting each other. Even though if we cross them with the enemy, we shouldn't cross certain lines with us. We shouldn't cross certain lines. When we fight with each other, we got to remember that we're brothers and sisters, and we don't ultimately want to hurt them at the end of the day, even if we want to win the argument. But those other ones, they mean to hurt us. So we got to be ready to hurt them. You understand what I'm saying? In every way possible to protect us. Anyway, you guys have what you think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach them. I'm out.
I'm so pro-black, you can't get me to involve myself in diaspora wars. I'm every nigga on this earth. I'm African, I'm Caribbean, I'm Afro-Latina, I'm Afro-European. If you're a nigga, I am you, you're me. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You're me, you're me, I'm you. I don't...
Hey, smoke! Hold! Hey, paradise, let's rock! It's the only thing I see. Yeah, yeah. Bend your back, bust it down, turn that booty all around, just as long as you twerk for me. So darling, twerk for me. Exclusive. Man, this is my show. It's for my ladies. Come on, sis, let's do it.
I will love you anyway.
If I see road,
Even if you cannot say, think you are the one for me.
take it right.
It is where you want to be. I just want to satisfy you. You're not mine, I can't decide. Don't you hear me talking, baby?
Hey, paradise.
Love you now or about
Ladies, let's go. Take it right.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's pan-Africanism or nothing.